We're going to start with the Fargo Police Chief today on the program, Dave Zibolski. And Chief Zibolski has joined us fairly regularly on the program. We've had a good dialogue. He's in the middle of a controversy related to officers who have left and their exit interviews, as well as some early retirements that are laid squarely at his feet. We want to give him a chance to respond to that. Chief Zibolski, thanks for joining us on the program today. How are you?
Good. Thank you, sir.
So let's just start with the big picture. There is allegations that your leadership has caused low morale in the Fargo Police Department, and there is a high number of resignations and departures. The exit interviews do not speak highly of your leadership, and also some early retirements where some people are speaking out. Even your past location, Beloit, Wisconsin, one of the reporters that's going to join us later today from Valley News Live is under some of the similar concerns there, saying, hey, we're not surprised. What do you say to these allegations, Chief?
Well, I think we addressed that at our meeting earlier this week. What I really wanted to talk about is the fact that our cops are doing outstanding work in the street, that our cops are safe and our community is safe. Just last evening, for an example, our officers out on patrol on the way to a call saw a stolen vehicle, a vehicle involved in a robbery. Got some additional assistance, made a felony stop, arrested the individual, recovered 3 firearms. And this has happened on 2 other occasions in the last week and a half. So I really want to assure our community that they are safe and that our officers are being taken care of.
I think everybody listening that is a resident of not only Fargo, but any community wants to hear that from their police chief. And obviously, these are challenging times in which we live in right now, where law enforcement's under attack. And in some places, they're the bad guy. Thankfully, we live where we live, where that is rare, but we still want the morale of our police department to be robust, and to these people to feel appreciated and wanted not only by the community, but their leaders. And while I respect the fact that you addressed some of this in a special meeting this week before the Fargo City Commission, our listeners didn't hear all of that. So tell me why your critics are wrong.
Well, as I laid out in the presentation, the exit interviews, of which there was 18, one of which did not have anything to do with me. It was written by an individual who had been on leave before I started and was referencing the prior administration. Some of those statements unwittingly made it into reports related to my leadership. 12 of the remaining 17 had either positive comments or positive ratings. The remaining 5 were 3 persons working in our records division at various times. There was some issues that were being addressed there. And then there was the other 2 in which much of the statements in the media were utilized. So I think in terms of that, you have a couple people saying the same thing many times versus many people saying the same thing. But I really want to focus going forward, because I think it's important for our officers that we move forward from this controversy so they can concentrate on what they really need to be thinking about. So I'm looking forward to the meeting on Monday and working with our commission on whatever plan they think is reasonably and objectively measurable to help move the department forward and take some of the stress off our officers related to this, as we internally continue to work towards addressing staffing, recruitment, and retention issues. Our executive staff is doing a great job on this effort, and I'm confident that going forward, we will resolve that.
So obviously going forward is going to depend on, sort of the morale of the department and how things are going. So as you, again, look back so you can look forward after Monday and get down to the business of being police chief and law and order in the city of Fargo, the largest city in the state of North Dakota, and one that sort of sets the tone for others. Eventually, this stuff creeps west. You look back and say, hey, I've not done anything that I feel is out of line. I don't think I've done anything to contribute to this morale problem, and that in balance, there's as much people that are okay with my leadership and have said good things about my leadership as have said they didn't like my leadership. You look back and say, there's nothing here that needs cleanup in aisle 5 or anything that I've done differently, Chief?
Well, sure. I think there's always room for improvement in a lot of areas. I'm working on communication and completing my one-on-ones with the department. I've done about 130 plus interviews. And so I think that's been very helpful as I get to know every officer as an individual, and continuing to grow those bonds. So I think coming in from the outside, that's a difficult task. The other thing that makes it difficult is, changes the organizational culture, and that can also be difficult for some folks. But yes, I have actually received support from within. Uh, Officers have contacted me and letting me know that they are supportive of the change efforts and they understand why they're being implemented and have encouraged me to stay. So, looking at it from a police chief perspective, you have to have the support of your elected officials, your department, and the community. And if I have those three groups, most of their support, we can be effective and we can be successful and move forward. So that's inspiring to me, while understanding that some folks may not be interested in some of the changes or maybe the rate of change, which could also be something that maybe could have gone a little slower, would make it a little more palatable for them. But I
Uh,
also want to point out that many of the things that were implemented were things that the department brought to my attention when I started in those one-on-one interviews.
what would be an example of that where you say, hey, this is a change that I brought as a result of what I learned from others that didn't go as smooth as it should have? What needed changing the most?
Well, a couple of the key things that majority of the members had in their surveys and conversations was the shift in the patrol side, the shift. They wanted a change in that where they would be working together in more of a team environment. The schedule that we proposed and then laid out for them, got their input, and that they all voted on it before it was implemented, provided not only the staffing we need at the time we need the most officers, but it gives them a nice off day schedule to provide that work life balance. They also wanted new promotional procedures, and we completely revamped our promotional procedures, doing that differently. And we've run one for sergeants where we had a very large pool, and lieutenants where we had a large pool of those that would have been eligible, and detectives. So, in terms of morale in the department, having large pools of applicants for promotion is a positive indicator. If no one wanted to move in the organization, that would be more concerning.
Does the city administration need to provide more oversight to either, I guess, validate your leadership so far, or in any way help in some of these areas where you say you can improve? It's one of the things I saw in the exit interviews that there was a lack of oversight by the city administration. You want more of that?
Yeah, well, I think it's part of the game. As I said, we have to have we have support of the commission, and I cannot complain about their support at all. They've been very good. The extent that they want to have information or be involved, I'm totally fine with that. As I said at the meeting, and offered previously to get together and discuss that information. All they ever have to do is ask, and I've responded to many commission requests, and through the mayor or individually, and looping in the mayor. He's our portfolio for the police department. So there's really no problem at all. We are
Quickly, I'd
trying
like
to get
an answer, if you don't mind, on this. Texter says, any truth that Mayor Mahoney's son was given special treatment when stopped for a traffic violation? Been a lot of rumors about that. Any truth to that?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't know that he was stopped for a traffic violation.
But you don't even know if he was. But so then obviously there couldn't have been special treatment if you don't know that he was stopped. You reject that idea there was any special treatment there?
I think our officers are very professional and they're very ethical. I would support whatever reasonable decisions they make, and I'm not aware of an incident like that. As we do with anyone that we stop, they can decide to issue a citation or a warning.
Got it. Chief, appreciate your time today. Sorry you had to wait to jump on with us. We're looking forward to doing these conversations monthly, and we'll follow Monday's meeting and see where this goes. Thank you, sir.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Chief David Zibolski, Police Chief, City of Fargo.